1130. 3 thrones, 3 continents, 1 question. How do you build a kingdom where none should exist? In Jerusalem, a Frankish warlord ruled a city as people had never seen until they conquered it. In northern China, a forest chieftain shuttered one of the world's most advanced empires. In Sicily, a Norman adventurer turned an island into the center of the Mediterranean. These men had nothing in common, except timing. Within a single century, Baldwin I, Aguda, and Roger II all solved the same problem: how to turn conquest into something that lasts. And in doing so, they revealed a brutal truth about medieval power. Legitimacy isn't inherited, it's built. When Godfrey de Bouillon died in July 1100, Jerusalem faced extinction. The First Crusade had captured the Holy City, but victory created crisis. Most crusaders had returned to Europe. A few hundred knights held a city surrounded by hostile powers: the Fatimid Caliphate, Turkish Emirates, Byzantine claims from the north. Enter Baldwin of Bouillon, Godfrey's younger brother, currently Count of Edessa, where Godfrey had been ceremonial. Baldwin was ruthless. He abandoned Edessa and marched south. On Christmas Day 1100, he was crowned King of Jerusalem, a deliberate provocation to those who believed the Holy City should have no earthly monarch. The crusade was over. The kingdom had begun. Baldwin inherited strategic nightmare. Jerusalem's territory extended perhaps 20 miles. Muslim armies outnumbered Crusader forces 50 to 1. Traditional feudal logic said this state was impossible, but Baldwin understood something his European peers did not. In the Levant, quality outweighed quantity. Heavy cavalry could shatter larger forces if deployed correctly. Alliances with local Christians provided intelligence and auxiliary troops. Most crucially, Crusader states needed economic foundations. That meant ports. His reign became systematic expansion. Acre fell in 1104, Sidon in 1110, Beirut in 1110. Each port brought customs revenue, Italian merchant allies, and maritime security. By 1118, Baldwin had tripled Jerusalem's territory and established for Crusader states a continuous Frankish corridor from Edessa to the Red Sea. The religious expedition had become permanent political order. Franks comprised perhaps 5% of Jerusalem's inhabitants. The rest were Orthodox Christians, Muslims, Jews, Samaritans, communities with their own legal systems and languages. Baldwin's solution was pragmatic segregation combined with economic incentives. Muslims and Jews could remain, pay taxes, practice their faith, but held no political power. Orthodox Christians gained limited autonomy. Italian merchant republics received trading privileges in exchange for naval support. This wasn't tolerance, it was calculation. The system worked because it aligned incentives. Peasants cared less about who ruled than whether taxes were predictable. Merchants cared about trade routes. Baldwin created hybrid feudalism. European military aristocracy grafted onto Eastern Mediterranean administrative practices. The kingdom survived not despite, but because of its military culture. Every able-bodied Frank was a potential soldier. Castles dotted the landscape. Military orders transformed monks into professional soldiers. Baldwin died in 1118 during a raid into Egypt. Characteristically, leading from the front, he had established the template: aggressive expansion when strong, strategic defense when weak, and absolute refusal to accept the Crusade's temporary nature. Manchuria, 1113. The Jurchen tribes inhabited forests northeast of China. Hunters, fishermen, semi-nomadic warriors whom the Khitan Liao dynasty considered barbarian tributaries. The Liao emperors ruled northern China through sophisticated hybrid governance: Khitan military aristocracy governing Chinese subjects, steppe cavalry supplemented by Chinese siege technology. They made a fatal error, assuming Jurchen backwardness was permanent. Aguda, chieftain of the Wanyan clan, recognized Jurchen military advantages. Forest warfare bred tactical flexibility. Harsh climate produced hardy soldiers. But he also saw Jurchen limitations. Tribal organization couldn't sustain prolonged campaigns. No administrative apparatus existed to govern conquered territory. If Jurchens could adopt Chinese methods while retaining steppe military superiority, they could replace the Liao entirely. The rebellion began in 1114. Aguda refused tribute, declared independence, and ambushed a Liao expedition. He adopted the dynastic name Jin Gold, proclaimed himself emperor, and established a capital. By claiming imperial title, Aguda asserted equality with the Liao and Song. By establishing a fixed capital, he signaled permanence. The military campaigns revealed strategic learning in real time. Early victories exploited mobility, classic steppe tactics, but cities required different methods. Aguda recruited Chinese defectors who brought siege engineering knowledge. By 1125, the Liao dynasty ceased to exist. The conquest took 11 years, remarkable speed given that the Liao had ruled for 2 centuries. The Song dynasty, ruling southern China, proposed an alliance in 1120, joint attack on the Liao, partition of territory. The Sea Alliance, it was history as great miscalculation. The alliance worked militarily, but Song armies performed poorly. Jurchen forces had to complete the conquest. Aguda's successor asked, if the Song couldn't hold northern territories, why cede them? In 1125, Jin armies turned south. In 1127, they captured Kaifeng, the Song capital, a city of over 1 million. Northern China fell to the Jin. The Song court fled south. China was split in 2. The division would last 150 years. The Jin faced the Conquerors' dilemma: how to rule millions of Chinese subjects without being absorbed by Chinese culture. They chose selective adoption. Jurchens maintained military supremacy, key positions reserved for Jurchens, but they employed Chinese bureaucrats, adopted Confucian examination systems, patronized Chinese arts. The result was internal tension. Within 3 generations, many Jin aristocrats spoke Chinese better than Jurchen, wrote classical poetry, and patronized Buddhist monasteries. The irony: military conquest by culturally inferior forces led to cultural conquest by the defeated civilization. The Jin remained politically dominant but culturally colonized. When Roger I died in 1101, he left his young son, Roger II, an island wealthy from agriculture and trade but politically unstable. Sicily contained Greek Orthodox Christians, Latin Catholics, Muslims, and Jews. Most rulers would have tried to homogenize. Roger I did the opposite. He recognized that Sicily's diversity was an asset. Greek bureaucrats brought Byzantine administrative sophistication. Arab scholars offered mathematical knowledge. Muslim craftsmen produced luxury goods. Norman warriors provided military power. Roger created a hybrid court where Greek, Arabic, and Latin were all official languages. This wasn't multiculturalism as tolerance, it was pragmatic exploitation of available talent. Sicily's position, center of the Mediterranean, made it inherently valuable. But position mattered only if defended. Roger invested in naval power capable of projecting force across the Mediterranean. Between 1127 and 1140, he conquered southern Italy, unified it with Sicily, and had himself crowned king in 1130. His fleets raided the North African coast, establishing footholds that controlled central Mediterranean trade routes. In 1147, while European attention focused on the Second Crusade, Roger attacked Byzantine Greece, sacking Corinth and Thebes. Byzantine Emperor Manuel I retaliated, but Roger's naval mobility allowed him to strike and withdraw before Byzantine forces could respond. The empire that once dominated the Mediterranean found itself unable to protect its own coasts. Roger's most lasting achievement was administrative synthesis. He created the Duina, a bureaucratic apparatus managing royal revenues through detailed record-keeping. The legal code incorporated Norman feudal law, Byzantine jurisprudence, and Islamic legal concepts. This required literate, multilingual administrators. Official proclamations were translated into Latin, Greek, and Arabic simultaneously. The military combined Norman heavy cavalry with Muslim light cavalry and Greek naval expertise. The royal palace at Palermo embodied the hybrid state. Byzantine mosaics, Islamic geometric patterns, Latin inscriptions, Norman architecture. Roger died in 1154, having ruled for 54 years. The synthesis he created depended on royal strength. His successors lacked his balancing ability. By 1194, the kingdom had passed to another dynasty. The unique Sicilian synthesis gradually dissolved. Yet Roger proved something significant. Multicultural empire building could work if the ruler prioritized effectiveness over ideological purity. Baldwin, Aguda, and Roger faced identical challenges. How to transform military conquest into durable political order. How to govern populations culturally distinct from the ruling elite. Their solutions varied, but patterns emerged. Military superiority alone was insufficient. All three began with battlefield advantages, but recognized that winning battles didn't create states. That required administration, revenue systems, and legitimacy structures. Institutional borrowing from the defeated was essential. Baldwin adopted Byzantine and Islamic practices. Aguda incorporated Chinese bureaucracy. Roger synthesized Byzantine, Islamic, and Latin systems. Hybrid identities created strength and fragility. The Crusader states, Jin dynasty, and Norman Sicily blended ruling and subject cultures.